Hey, stop that cab. Freddie Roach says he didn't want to take the Errol Spence fight for Pacquiao. He preferred Mikey Garcia initially. Oh man, we gotta talk about that. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Listen, hit the like button. That goes a long way when you guys hit the likes to notify others that the content may be of interest. I cover everything boxing, the sweet science, some UFC. This is your one-stop shop. So make sure you guys throw a like, subscribe to the channel. Interview with Yahoo Sports, link in the description. You guys see it on the screen. Manny Pacquiao isn't afraid of Errol Spence, but you look at the subheading. It says Freddie Roach initially didn't want Pacquiao to take on Spence Jr. Why does it say Freddie Roach initially didn't want Pacquiao to take on Spence Jr. initially? Damn, they don't even check for grammatical errors, right? So nonetheless, it says why Manny Pacquiao chose to face Errol Spence despite Freddie Roach's objections. You guys see it. Boom. Why Pacquiao chose Errol Spence despite Freddie Roach's objections. Manny Pacquiao sat ringside. Errol Spence dominated Mikey Garcia, scored a shutout. Right? I was at that fight. It says Pacquiao entered the ring after the bout, and Spence quickly said he would love to fight the Filipino superstar. But members of Pacquiao's team weren't so sure about the fight. Spence was the one welterweight of all that made little sense to them. You guys see it, right? It's in print. I just highlighted it for you. But members of Pacquiao's team weren't so sure about the fight. Errol Spence was one welterweight of all of them that made little sense. How does it make little sense unless you duck and smoke when the man has two belts? That doesn't make sense. Talking about things not making sense. Pacquiao, whether he kept his WBA belt or not, which they took it because he hadn't fought. But regardless, that's a fighter with the most stature outside of Pacquiao, you know, out of the new crop of fighters. So how does it not make sense? And he has the best numbers, the best attendance, the most belts, and he's popping. Wow. At nearly 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, he's got more than 4 inches of height and 5 inches on reach on Pacquiao. He's 11 years younger. The advantage is in nearly every measurable. Damn, did they proofread this? Hold on. It says the advantage in nearly every measurable goes to Spence. I feel like it's missing a word. Still though, Pacquiao wanted to fight and is a plus 180 underdog. The senator knows what he's looking at, Sean Gibbons, Manny Pacquiao promotion says. Gibbons wasn't so sure, nor was Freddie Roach, Pacquiao's legendary trainer. This is where it gets interesting. He says, I highlighted it for you guys so you guys will see it on the screen. You guys should be able to see it. Errol Spence, he wasn't my first choice. I was leaning towards Mikey Garcia because he challenged us several times and so forth. When Manny picked Errol Spence, I said, congratulations, you picked the best guy out there. Now, the reason I started this and I said cap, and I started this whole video saying it was cap, is because I just did a video yesterday. A lot of y'all checked it out. A lot of y'all knew what it was and knew what time it was. And it was about this very subject. Freddie Roach talking about his upcoming fight. And in it, he said his quotes were, I'm just going to paraphrase, but you guys, I read the exact quotes for that video. Listen, people, this is why you guys got to subscribe to the channel, throw a like on the video to get the latest and greatest so I can just give you the cliff notes. Go check that past video and the other videos similar. So in that video, I gave the actual quotes. Freddie Roach literally said, and I'm just going to paraphrase, that Errol Spence is second to Keith Thurman. He said basically Keith Thurman is a more dangerous style for Manny Pacquiao, and Pacquiao already beat him. And In that video, before this interview came out, I told you that was capped, and I didn't agree with Freddie Roach. And I think at best it's wishful thinking, or maybe he's trying to talk himself up, because you're in the fight now. Pacquiao's in camp for this guy August 21st. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Show doubts and, act like you made a mistake? So, of course, he has to ride the wave. But you could still be realistic. And this is what's wrong in boxing. When I give you guys my takes, I give you my honest takes. If it's something that I felt I couldn't be honest with, then I probably wouldn't talk about it, which is usually nothing. But it just sounded like cap. If you listen to that previous video, which was recent quotes from Freddie Roach versus what he's saying now, these are two different things. Now he's saying and coming clean, saying that the first choice for Pacquiao was not Errol Spence Jr. But in yesterday's video from the same person, Freddie Roach, he made it sound like Keith Thurman was far superior to Errol Spence, or he favors Keith Thurman over Errol Spence in terms of stylistic fights to give Pacquiao problems. So I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me. We've seen Keith Thurman hurt more times than Errol Spence. His last fight before the Pacquiao fight, Jose Cito Lopez, he got hurt and he was running around and he looked like he was about to get stopped. So how could you honestly feel that Errol Spence is not the one, right? Now he's coming clean and saying that Spence was not even his first choice. He preferred the Mikey Garcia fight. Very telling. He says again, Errol, he wasn't my first choice. I was leaning towards Mikey Garcia because he challenged us several times and so forth. When Manny Pacquiao picked Spence, I said, congratulations, you picked the best guy out there. So how did Freddie Roach now say that Pacquiao picked the best guy out there if he says that Keith Thurman is better than Errol Spence? Wow, this is looking bad for Team Pacquiao in that regard. The other thing is, Manny Pacquiao said at the press conference they were at the Fox studio, they did a once and done press conference, and in that press conference, Errol Spence was given praise by Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao declared that he doesn't need help from Floyd Mayweather because he believes Errol Spence is a better fighter than Mayweather. So Team Pacquiao is looking all over the place because Freddie Roach, in one hand, he made it sound like Keith Thurman was better than Errol Spence, and he's worried less about Errol Spence than he was for the Keith Thurman fight. But this new interview is basically contradicting all of that. And he's coming clean. And this is what I think is the real truth, that he knows that Spence is the truth and he didn't want to fight Spence. The other thing I think Pacquiao's team is this is just speculation. I think Spence getting in that car accident, because you notice Pacquiao, he got in the ring after the Mikey Garcia fight, and he never really came close to actually fighting prior to the accident Errol Spence. And then Errol Spence went on to fight Sean Porter, and then he got in the accident. But then even when he came back from the accident, you never heard about Pacquiao. It was like Pacquiao could fight Conor McGregor. Pacquiao couldn't fight Mikey Garcia. He might fight Ryan Garcia. You know what I mean? So it was all these other names, and it really wasn't Errol Spence's name being uttered. Now you see why. I strongly believe that Pacquiao's team, they didn't want the Errol Spence fight. They know he's a beast, and they know how, he badass. They know he's badass, and they didn't want this fight. But after the Crawford fight, they said the money didn't come through, so that fell apart. Ryan Garcia fell apart. Conor McGregor fell apart. And then this is a bigger fight. So even though Errol Spence, he already beat Mikey Garcia. So Pacquiao would get more credit for fighting Errol Spence, obviously, than fighting Mikey Garcia, a guy who lost to Errol Spence, especially when Errol Spence is a true welterweight. He's the guy with belts and stuff. So I think the money in the car accident is why they're taking this fight. Because like I said, I didn't see this level of willingness to fight Errol Spence prior to the accident. So I think Pacquiao probably feels, based on that Danny Garcia performance, like, oh, Errol Spence, you know, he might have lost a little bit of step. He might have lost, like, even though he dominated Danny Garcia, maybe he feels like he lost a step, or, you know, he's not as quick or whatever. But it's very telling to hear this stuff come out. Now, less than a month before their welterweight fight, Roach has come around to Pacquiao's viewpoint. They've come up with the game plan that Roach believes will work, and he's watching Pacquiao execute. See, all this stuff is fluff and filler to me, because you can't say we didn't want to fight, but then now I'm on board. You can't say like I preferred Mikey Garcia, and then Keith Thurman is more difficult than Errol, and then now all of a sudden you're on board. Say we started out early because this is one of the toughest guys out there, and we really needed time to get ready. I hired some really good sparring partners, then I fired some really good sparring partners and hired even better guys. I'm doing everything we can to get 100% Manny into this fight. We still have about a month to go, and Manny is getting better and better. Both Pacquiao and Spence are left-handers that could tend to be difficult, blah, blah, blah. Roach said Pacquiao excels against southpaws because of the sheer number of left-handers he's seen over the years in the Philippines. Pacquiao's footwork will be the key in the fight. Roach believes he'll fight Spence similar to the way he approached Antonio Margarito 2010. That was like a decade ago. Blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. He said Manny was in and out. And when he does that, the opponent doesn't know whether he's coming or going. When he breaks in with the combination, he can't sit in the pocket. If he sits in the pocket, he'll get hit back, and this guy is a good puncher. He's got to get in, hit, and get out right away. And he said, you can't just go straight right in on him. You have to use an angle. Manny's been doing this quite a bit. The footwork is key to winning the fight. Manny's footwork is better than anyone's. He's on his toes, and he could do it for 12 rounds. So I agree with Manny Pacquiao's footwork. He's very awkward. He has that awkward footwork, and ultimately we're going to see what it is and what it ain't. But very telling stuff from Freddie Roach. I think Freddie Roach knows that this could be Pacquiao's last fight. I truly believe that. And he's just preparing his fighter. Listen, Pacquiao definitely has a chance, but he's an underdog for a reason. Pacquiao wouldn't just be the underdog versus just anybody. It has to be a person like Errol Spence, who's like, okay, he's southpaw, he hits hard, body punching, you know, he can box. He showed you that in the Mikey Garcia fight. So I think it'll be a great fight, but I think Freddie Roach was blowing smoke when he was saying previous things that he was saying, like Keith Thurman is better. And now he revealed that he didn't even want this fight. So you can't tell me he never said this about Keith Thurman. You know, so how are you gonna say that? How are you gonna say that Keith Thurman is better than Errol, but then you admit you rather him fight Mikey Garcia? You know what I'm saying? Come on, that don't make sense. But this is what I speculated in my last video, and to me, this is the vindication and the confirmation that everything I said in that previous video is it. They know this is a dangerous fight. That's why they talk about Pacquiao performances from 2010. Can he relive those moments and, you know, resurrect that version of Pacquiao? Because he did in the Keith Thurman fight. Keith Thurman did better late, right? Keith Thurman did better late. And I thought Pacquiao started slowing down a bit, but he had banked so many early rounds. Errol Spence, he went to war with Sean Porter for 12 whole rounds. So knowing this opportunity, I feel like he looks like he's in great shape. I feel like him and his team are going to be conditioning him like next level to go possibly 12 rounds or get the stoppage if it's there. So I'm favoring Errol in this fight. I think Freddie Roach deep down inside, I mean, he can't say it. I could say it because I just talk boxing, you know, and give my opinion. But his actions and prior statements show me that they know Errol's a problem, because you wouldn't have said you prefer Mikey Garcia, a guy that Errol Spence already beat, point blank period. Just like I suggested in my last video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, use my link in the description to get TUBEBUDDY. TubeBuddy is an awesome browser extension to help you make some money on this YouTube platform. That's all I gotta say. Hit the like button. We out.